listeriosis outbreak that claimed at least 200 lives. Thando Luhlenqobo has more.
Tiger Brand says it's working with retail and wholesale customers to remove all incorrectly labeled Benny-flavored stock cubes products from store shelves. However, the company has assured that this recall does not include any other products marketed and sold under the Benny brand. The company remains under public and legal scrutiny nearly 7 years after the deadly listeriosis outbreak. The Benny-flavored stock cubes were recently introduced to the Tiger Brand's product line. The food manufacturer says it will make the stock cubes available again once the labeling information has been rectified. Thando Luhlenqobo, Eyewitness News.
We move to the courts where the lawyers arguing on behalf of the Competition Commission have asked the Constitutional Court to set aside a ruling barring certain independent banks from being tried for rand manipulation. The Commission approached the Apex Court to challenge a ruling by the Competition Appeal Court. The Appeal Court had ruled that the Competition Tribunal does not have jurisdiction to prosecute about 28 banks who were implicated in price fixing of the rand. The initial report flagged Absa, Nedbank and Standard Bank and First Rand to be among those who had taken part in the manipulation between 2007 and 2013. Khomotso Modise has more.
Originally, 28 banks were referred to the Competition Commission for rand manipulation, but over the years, some have settled with the Commission, while others were released by the Competition Appeal Court. According to the allegation, the banks had used Bloomberg's instant messaging service for price fixing and market division when trading with the US dollar and rand exchange. In addition to some South African banks, some international entities such as JP Morgan and HSBC Bank were also flagged. But in January last year, the Competition Appeal Court ruled that South Africa's Competition Tribunal has no jurisdiction to prosecute the banks because the price fixing was not done in the country. If the Commission's appeal is successful in the Apex Court, then 13 banks will be referred to the Tribunal for prosecution. After 3 days of arguments, judgment in the matter has been reserved. Khomotso Modise, Eyewitness News.
The City of Johannesburg has confirmed that controversial former Johannesburg Property Company CEO Helen Grootes is no longer employed by the municipality. Although her contract was set to expire in September last year, the JPC board decided to extend it. During her 16-year tenure as CEO, Grootes faced numerous corruption allegations, including an investigation by the Special Investigating Unit. Alpha Ramushana has the story.
In 2023, South Africans were shocked by a devastating fire at the hijacked Usindiso building in Johannesburg CBD, which claimed 76 lives. A commission of inquiry tasked with investigating the blaze found that Helen Grootes, then CEO of the Johannesburg Property Company, should be held responsible. The commission found that Grootes ignored the property's hijacking and knew it was a disaster waiting to happen. DA regional leader Belinda Kaiser Echozonjoku describes Grootes' exit from the city as good riddance.
Leaving office does not absolve Grootes of responsibility. Nobody is above the law. Johannesburg residents deserve justice, and the DA will continue this fight in council, in court, and in every forum until accountability is done.
While the DA claims Grootes is now an advisor in the office of the Johannesburg mayor, the city spokesperson could neither confirm nor deny the claim. Alpha Ramshwana, Eyewitness News.
In the Western Cape, City of Cape Town Council Speaker Felicity Purchase has survived a motion of no confidence motion brought by the Good Party and some opposition parties in council. Renewed calls for Purchase to step aside came after EFF councillor Mzubani Dambuza was choked by a security officer in council chambers last month. The opposition parties were also against the Speaker scheduling today's council meeting on a virtual platform. Good councillor Jonathan Capito accused Purchase of abusing her power and for showing bias towards DA councillors.
Instead of presiding fairly, she has tolerated violence, allowed racial insults, excused councillors from her own party, and punished only the opposition. This is not impartial leadership, it's arrogance cloaked in authority.
However, DA councillor Mzwakhe Nqavashe described the motion as a political witch hunt.
The Good Party and the others must not pretend that this is about principles of fairness and justice. If it were, we would see real evidence, real engagement and commitment to due process. Instead, we see vague allegations, exaggerated claims, and a relentless campaign to discredit the Speaker who refuses to bend to political pressure.
And Checkers has begun trialling South Africa's first smart shopping trolley, branded the Express Trolley, that's currently being piloted at 2 Western Cape stores, Checkers Hyper Brackenfell and Checkers Constantia. Built by the Shoprite X Innovation team, the trolleys are fitted with a touchscreen that guides customers throughout their shop, pointing out where products are located. Shoppers can scan items as they place them into bags inside the cart, track a live running total, access personalized promotions and pay directly from the trolley using the bank card saved on their Checkers 60 profile. The supermarket giant says the move will significantly enhance the in-store experience by allowing customers to bypass traditional checkout counters. 10 trolleys are available at each location following initial testing with employees at the retailer's Brackenfell head office earlier this month. Gold's trading at $3,343.12 an ounce. The rand's at 17.75 to the dollar, at 23.80 to the pound, at 20.60 to the euro. Brent crude oil's at $67.40 a barrel.
In your sport, Jean-Luc Deprez eager to make the most of his first Springbok start in 7 years. Jerome Boateng's contract is terminated just 3 games into the new season after clashes with fans. And Olympic champion Iman Khalif denies malicious claims of retirement.
Look at your weather. Clear skies in store for Gauteng. Tomorrow, Joburg will drop to overnight lows of 11 degrees and peak at highs of 28. Pretoria is at 11 and 29. Vereeniging's at 6 and 27 degrees. A partly cloudy Friday for the mother city with isolated showers and rain tomorrow, along with strong northwesterly winds at a low of 14 and a high of 16 degrees. The top story in Eyewitness News this hour. Giant food manufacturer Tiger Brands is urging consumers to return their Benny beef and chicken flavoured stock cubes to their nearest retailers and receive funds.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app. EWN Traffic.
Well, at this stage, if you are in the Brakpan area heading towards Boksburg, there's a bumper-to-bumper traffic. Expect about a 30-minute delay. This is on the N17 westbound between Heidelberg Road and Rondebold. Not yet clear what's causing this. If you have any info, please let us know. WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702. Also in the Southgate area, there's slow-moving traffic. This is on the N12 westbound heading into Soweto between Xavier and the Diepkloof interchange. Also in Diepkloof, traveling through Chris Hani Road, expect some delays opposite Para Hospital, while in Leratong, slow-moving traffic on Randfontein Road between Corlet and Adcock. If you come across any other traffic issues, please SMS us on 31702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
And now, The Money Show
with Stephen Grootes on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes is brought to you by ABSA CIB, backing the Ideas Fund by advancing capital to African infrastructure investment managers. Good evening. Welcome to the program. I'm Stephen Grootes, 9 minutes after 6. Plenty to come. We'll speak to the CEO at Exaro Resources, Ben Magara, in just a moment. He's had a very interesting corporate career in South Africa. Also, the CEO of the Spur Corporation, Val Nichas, this evening. It seems that more people, so the same number of people, basically went to restaurants owned by the Spur Corporation, a Panarottis or a Spur or something, as last year, but they spent a little bit more. I'd like to know what you're spending the money on. Are you spending it on dessert? Are you spending it on a drink? Are you spending it on something else? Are you spending it on, the double rack of ribs? Where's the money actually going? I was interested because, I went to a restaurant chain with my family about a month ago. We had a great time. It really is. But it is expensive. You take 4 people out, and you come back, you're not going to come back with much change from 1,000 rand. It's a ton of money. And it is a tough environment still, despite interest rate cuts and all the rest. So I'd be very interested to know from you what your experience has been. Is there value for money in going out, you with the family, going to a restaurant and spending that money on 011 8830 702 and 021 4460 567? Let me put it like this. When you got the bill, how did you feel? Was it value for money, or did you think, I don't know if I'm going to do this again? How did you feel? You might want to tell us your story too on 072 702 1702. Also tonight, one of the bed companies has renamed themselves. I don't really know if the name matters. I think it does if you've spent money on the branding. And I remember when I was growing up, the first company that I sort of realized had changed its name, I must have been 7 or 8, was Datsun, which became Nissan. And did you know that Nissan was once Datsun? And they actually brought out a model of car, a Datsun model, as a sort of throwback to that a couple of years ago. It was quite strange to see that again. But then Nissan became the name. And I still to this day don't really understand why they did it. We'll talk issues around fiber broadband as well. An important conversation to come before 7 o'clock. I was quite surprised, bemused might be a good word, intrigued by the Police Commissioner General in Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, the Provincial Police Commissioner in KwaZulu-Natal. And you might be about to ask yourself, why is the Money Show? Why is Stephen about to speak about Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi? He said yesterday at a public engagement event, he said that one of the reasons unemployment is so high is because salaries are too high. And he had a go at the unions for demanding higher salaries. He said essentially that we could employ more police if we didn't have to pay them as much. And the unions, as you can imagine, are not very pleased with that. Quite an odd intervention into economics from someone who's not really in that space. I'm not at all saying he doesn't have a right to. I was just surprised. It did make me wonder a little bit about whether General Mkhwanazi has other ambitions, let me put it like that. But your view on that? The unions are furious. 011 883 0702 021 446 0567. Good evening.
The Money Show
With Stephen Grootes, live on 92.7 and 106 FM. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
and DSTV channel 856.
The coal producer Exxaro Resources reporting today its revenue for the 6 months to the end of June up by 8%. Attributable profit was up by 11%. The group seems to have found plenty of space to cut costs. The CEO at Exxaro Resources is Ben Magara. Ben, good evening. Welcome back to the Money Show. Thermal coal prices were slightly softer during the period. It seems you were able to keep costs down, and some of your other investments seem to have helped out a little bit.
Yes, indeed, Stephen. We have been able to contain our costs. We almost kept our costs flat from the second half of last year, 2024, to this year. And all that work has come through to improve our earnings, and particularly our EBITDA, having gone up 10% and revenue only up 8%. So the cost containment program, the price realization, so even though we may have lower volumes here and there in terms of exports, the good thing is that we were able to actually realize higher value to maximize on our negotiating power because of the premium qualities of coal that Exxaro is able to produce and blend between our coal from Limpopo and the mines in Mpumalanga. All that has improved our earnings. We also look at multi-transportation models to optimize and reduce logistics costs. While the best route is Richards Bay Coal Terminal, sometimes we have to opt for Maputo, which is a little bit more expensive. We reduced our road traffic of coal to Maputo and tested some trains to pick up straight from the mines into Maputo. That reduced our costs even further, and hence the margins that you see today, and we are very pleased with the results.
The railway link from your mines in South Africa to Mozambique, to Maputo, is that cheaper than the railway link to the Richards Bay Coal Terminal?
Not necessarily. Those are some of confidential numbers, but the one thing is that Maputo is a lot nearer than Richards Bay. But obviously, because we are straddling two countries, there will be various charges here and there. I think the real thing is to try and optimize the locations of our operations and see how best we can distribute. First price, given the kind of sunk capital we put into Richards Bay because of our entitlement, first price is always going to be Richards Bay Coal Terminal. So the green shoots of improvements we are seeing from Transnet, their run rate has increased from just under 50 million tons to 54 million tons, and we've taken benefit from that as well. So Richards Bay is the best route for us and the cheapest route.
Okay. You spoke about cutting costs. Is there much more to cut? I mean, you can't keep doing that forever.
I think cutting costs is possibly a stronger word than our approach. it's cost containment and looking at, are there bad costs to take out? I have an old friend who always used to say there are bad costs and good costs. Good costs you can spend because they improve our value. Bad costs must come out. So, and you must drive efficiencies. We have seen our Mpumalanga mines, Belfast, Mafube, and Leeuwpan reduce costs, improve production by 14%, and that directly goes to your unit cost improvement. And we are seeing all that continuing in the areas. So there are areas where we can spend because they are going to improve our operational efficiency and reduce unit costs. So it's various levers that we can pull. Leeuwpan mine, which has been struggling with profitability, we have managed to actually do a turnaround plan there. We put an optimized mine plan, and we had a Section 189 process that is now closed, and we have an agreement with the unions, and all that is reducing some costs. We are moving the majority of those employees that we need in the wider group, so we're not reducing our workforce. We're actually still increasing. But all that optimized group portfolio has brought us some cost containment projects, which we're very pleased with.
We saw, and this all happened sort of before you became the CEO, but we saw a little bit of what was happening with your predecessor, Nombasa Tsengwa. There was a court case. It looked like it was about to get very ugly, Ben. Has that done any lasting damage to the company? I mean, have you, in your role now, come across damage to the company that was done during that time that you sort of need to sort out?
Stephen, in South Africa, we have robust laws that regulate employer-employee relationships, and everybody's got a right to that law to protect themselves. And I want to assure you that due process was well followed, and Dr. Nombasa spent 22 years with Exxaro, and we thank her for her contributions. I think the work that I've been doing with the team once I got in as well is to stabilize the business, really give an opportunity to a great expert and great commitment that I found in Exxaro. That's exceptional, and hence the results that you see today. So I think we have stabilized the business. We are focused on continuously improving right now, and I'm very pleased with the new management structure that we have put in place and the appointments we have made, and all these are showing us great signs of a very excited Exxaro that's really just inspired to do the best work of our lives at Exxaro.
Ben Magara, thanks very much indeed. CEO at Exxaro Resources.
7:02. Stephen is on The Money Show.
6 to 8 p.m.
19 after 6. Good evening. The Spur Group reporting today. 11.5 billion rand went through its franchise restaurants in the year to the end of June. Despite the group saying they aren't really seeing an increase in disposable income. The CEO at Spur is Val Nitchas. Val, good evening. So your turnover was high. Your profits were actually up 17%. How did you squeeze that out of what is still, I suppose, a relatively tough trading environment?
Good evening, Stephen. Yes, it was a rather uncertain period and inconsistent, but we are grateful that the brand equity of our brands kept our loyal customers returning to us. So I think the first differentiator was the fact that we offer a different experience when you come and eat. It's not only to get food, but it's to have a whole meal experience for the kids to play, to celebrate. I think that was one aspect. The other aspect was that we managed costs and also expanded our central basket of goods that we service our franchisees with. So I think it was on that point, but probably the key differentiator was the fact that people are coming to us maybe on the weekends for entertainment and looking for something that's greater than just a meal solution, but an experience.
I was a little surprised to see that people are spending a bit more per head. So you have roughly the same number of people coming through over the year, but they're spending more. I mean, are they buying more desserts? Are they buying more beer? Are they having starters suddenly?
Yeah, look, in some of the more specialty restaurants, you will find consumers having a 3-course or a 2-course meal. But I think a lot of that increase in spend per head is inflationary.
Okay. We know that there are plenty of other chains competing against you. And you say that supermarkets are now competing against you as well. How are they competing with you? I mean, some of them have quite big resources.
Yes, we've got a view at Spur Corp that anyone that offers our consumers a potential meal solution is regarded as a competitor. Perhaps not a direct competitor, but a secondary one. And we also believe consumers have got a repertoire of meal solutions. So perhaps in the week, a working woman will gravitate towards a QSR or a supermarket solution. But on the weekend, when she wants a bit of time out and a little bit more time with her family, she will come to our restaurants. Because our restaurants are more about the experience. You're not just going to pop in for 20 minutes. You're going to sit there for a good hour or so. So I think, yes, the supermarkets have increased their offering, really offering lots of things from sushi to pizza to even ribs. But I think it's for different occasions. I think the difference in a seated restaurant, you're going to have waited service, someone tidies up your table, your kids play for free. So it's all about the experience because we believe that we offer more than just a meal.
So you're not worried about the home delivery sector, which is still growing very strongly?
Yes, look, we are very aware of everything that's going on, and obviously we never rest on our laurels, but we try and focus on what our core competency and core strategy is, and that's to offer great sit-down dining experiences, casual dining, speciality, and fast casual.
How important at the moment in this sort of tough environment, but a very competitive environment, how important are promotions, campaigns, advertising campaigns, things like that?
I think they're critically important, Stephen, and I think one of the reasons why we showed a nice upturn in half two was because we invested our franchisees' marketing funds heavily in activating experiences at restaurants, looking at shareables, looking at good value-added campaigns, just to offer our consumers good value, especially at a time when they are a bit strapped for cash. So critically important. Even though we know that most of your brand equity is built at the dining experience at the table, we know that you've got to draw the traffic in because consumers are looking and choosing and selecting the best offer for their purse. So marketing is essential.
You also had a little bit of a rebrand, you refreshed your brand identities, I think was the phrase that you used at the Spur brand too. Is that playing quite a big role? Was that money well spent at this point?
Yes, I think the refreshed look for Spur has worked really well. We got sort of unanimous acceptance of the brand CR change by our franchisees. And franchisees have started revamping. A lot of them have volunteered to revamp before their revamp cycle. So we're very encouraged with the response we've had, first of all, from the franchisees and secondly from our customers. Always dining in a nice, fresh, new experience, new furniture, new play areas for the kids is always attractive for consumers. So far, we've revamped 51 restaurants, actually 52 as of today, revamped and new in the new look. So really encouraging, and on the whole, most of them are performing well. So we hope that the franchisees' investment will be realized soon.
And you're using, as I understand it, AI-driven data analytics to target your marketing. I mean, the way in which you speak to your customers is changing dramatically. It's not just sort of, TV and radio ads anymore. Does that work? Do you actually see that having an impact in any way?
I think the starting point for us is more about using AI-enabled tools to analyze the data and do data dives to be able to really understand the dynamic of the consumer segments. That then will inform us to be able to personalize and customize communication so that your marketing investment is more targeted, it's more relevant, and you get a greater return. So really exciting to see what some of this technology can do to help you analyze data more effectively. Obviously, we're also developing stuff to look at how we can create a better experience through technology and other automated conveniences that you can offer in a sit-down restaurant. But for the whole, in the beginning now, it's about using AI tools data segmentation, for predictive indexing, for modeling, to look at what the future could look like if you did certain things.
Val
So
Nitsch.
exciting times, yes.
Yeah, very interesting. Val Nitschas, thanks very much indeed. Very interesting time to be a marketer, and it would seem to be in the restaurant business. Val Nitschas is the CEO at Spur Corporation.
The Money Show.
The markets.
Rudy van der Merwes, Portfolio Manager at Advice Works. Rudy, good evening. When you consider the trading environment we're in, quite a strong update from Spur, really.
Evening, Stephen. Yes, it is. Actually, pleasantly surprised. I thought they would be having a tougher time of it, and consumers out there are clearly still under pressure. Inflation has been biting them over the last year or so, and it's there's a lot of uncertainty from an employment perspective around. So one would have thought they would be struggling more than they seem to be, which I think speaks more to their good execution really than to the environment being better possibly than we had anticipated. But yeah, I think that's a very, very credible set of results under the circumstances.
They also, maybe it was just me, gave us quite a lot of details in their SEND statement today.
They did. It's actually over the last number of years, a lot of the sense announcements they're all now short form announcements. Years ago, you would look at a set of results and it could be 100 pages long. And now very often it's a paragraph with almost no detail at all, which forces one to go and scratch around on a company website to get any real substance. And Spurs was at least a little bit more meaty. It wasn't a full set of financials, but there was enough commentary there that one can get a very decent feeling for what's going on in the company and the environment without having to dig around on the website.
Exxaro's results, despite softer coal prices, a fairly strong set of results.
Yes, and seemingly surprised the market quite significantly. I think the market had anticipated a significantly worse set of results than this, and they were rewarded on the day. I think the share price closed up close to 8%. But yes, producing lots of cash flow. They had a falling commodity price environment, but managed to move better volumes and get better pricing domestically and manage their costs very, very well. They've got net cash of over 18 odd billion rand, which is up 30% year on year, which bodes well, for them to potentially further increase dividends down the line if they can continue down this path.
And then also an update, if I saw it correctly, from Wilson Bailey Homes Ofcon.
Yes, just a trading statement. Wilson Bailey's long been the sort of premier business in that the construction space domestically. There's not a lot of detail there, but they are talking about their revenues being mainly flat, but margins improving, which again speaks to good execution. Their order book has grown by 23% to about just over 37 odd billion rand, which is obviously very good news. And they're talking about headline earnings growing by 10 to 20%, which is a very credible performance in this sort of environment.
And then Curo saying they're able to increase earnings by 10%.
They're talking about cash generation from operations being up 10%, but headline earnings are likely to be flat. They seemingly are going to be bitten a little bit by property revaluations, which is going to have a negative impact to the tune of about 74 odd million rand. But headline earnings are seemingly likely to be flat.
Rudy van der Merwe, thanks very much indeed. Portfolio Manager at Advice Works. Still to come on The Money Show, we'll talk about why names matter, why a company would change their name, and what do you gain from it. I've always wondered. I mean, sometimes I get it. Sometimes you have no choice. Sometimes you have to actually change a name. So there is that. Then also, of course, coming through in the next little while, we'll talk about the tech sector. We will talk a little bit about what's happening in the B20 as well on that. There's quite a lot going on in there, and I think we'll have a quick look at that as well tonight. Don't forget investment school as well. Should you go offshore, or should you actually keep your money here? You're with The Money Show, just gone 6:30. Maki Malapo, good evening, the city of Tshwane.
Thanks, Stephen. Good evening. The city of Tshwane has set itself a massive investment target of 5 billion rand in a bid to turn the municipality around. The city hopes to woo investors at its upcoming inaugural investment summit next month. Tshwane Mayor Nasipi Moya briefed the media on plans to revive underperforming assets, including the Rooiwal Power Plant, Wonderboom Airport and the troubled fresh produce market. Moya says the upcoming summit will showcase the city as a viable investment destination.
These assets alone will not be enough to revive the city's economy. As such, during the summit, the administration will reveal a comprehensive support package to investors. Some investors in the city are already benefiting from the work we have begun in this regard. We have reconfigured the Tshwane Strategic Investment Committee, also known as STRIC.
She says investment in the city will help plug some gaps in its revenue and service delivery plans.
We can provide all this support, ladies and gentlemen, if we do not provide reliable infrastructure, if we cannot commit the city in provision of water and electricity, no investor will have confidence in us. As such, the city of Tshwane is undertaking critical interventions to address long-standing infrastructure challenges.
In the south of Johannesburg, some activists in Soweto have accused government of excluding women from preparations in the lead-up to the G20 summit in Johannesburg. The summit, where the world's biggest economies will meet under the theme Solidarity, Equality and Sustainability, is being hosted in Africa for the first time. South Africa marked Women's Month at the beginning of August, with unemployment among women still higher in comparison to men. Ntokozo Khumalo has more.
Residents gathered at Diepkloof Community Hall today to raise their concerns with the Gauteng government during a G20 awareness program. Activists say while infrastructure repairs are underway to impress world leaders, ordinary people, particularly women, have been left in the lurch. Community leader Musimo Musigari argued that women cannot continue to shoulder the burden of poverty and joblessness without real support from government.
We need help. We need to be resourced as women. We've got nothing. We've got families that we are raising out of nothing. 520 is nothing. So we need lots and lots of help.
Musigari added that lasting change must extend beyond the summit to translate into job creation and equal opportunity for women. Ntokozo Khumalo, Eyewitness News.
In the ongoing battle for the grassroots vote in the Western Cape's rural communities, the Democratic Alliance has retained its ward in the Matsikama municipality town of Van Reinsdorp. The party has recently been embroiled in a bitter battle to retain control over the Hung Council after the Western Cape High Court recently overturned an attempt by a coalition of the ANC, the PA and the EFF to wrest control. Yesterday's by-election result is the DA's highest ever vote tally in that ward, which was originally won by the Patriotic Alliance in the 2021 municipal election before its councillor defected to the DA. Meanwhile, the ANC says while it's disappointed by the outcome at Matsikama, where it's only placed third, it's managed to retain Ward 3 in the Knysna municipality by only 31 votes, with the Patriotic Alliance nipping at its heels. ANC Western Cape spokesperson Khalid Sayed says despite the Knysna victory, it will nevertheless be dissecting the reasons for the 8% decline in support.
The Knysna municipality is now able, through the ANC-led coalition, to continue improving the state of the municipality and serving all residents.
Still in the Western Cape, the Cape Town Council has approved the construction of social houses on the site of an existing Food Lovers Market store in District 6. The municipality says the 3,300 square metre property on the edge of the CBD will house 375 residential units and a number of shops. The social housing will benefit Cape Townians earning between 1,850 and 32,000 rand per month. Mayor Jordan Hill-Lewis says the prime property is close to job opportunities and schools.
So this is the kind of address that can change people's lives for the better and open up entire new avenues of opportunity for them. And by guaranteeing a large number of subsidized social housing units as part of this development, we can make sure that this prime property serves Cape Townians well.
A look at your weather. A fine Friday in store for Gauteng tomorrow. Temperatures will drop to overnight lows between 6 and 11 degrees and peak at highs between 27 and 29 degrees. A partly cloudy day for Cape Town with isolated showers and rain, along with strong northwesterly winds tomorrow at a low of 14 and a high of 16 degrees. The top story in Eyewitness News. The city of Tshwane has set itself a massive investment target of 5 billion rand in a bid to turn the municipality around.
EWN Traffic.
Well, at this stage, in the Boksburg, Brakpan area heading towards Germiston, we still have bumper-to-bumper traffic. N17 westbound. This is between Heidelberg Road, Rangeview Road. That's passing Carnival City, heading towards Rondebold Road. There's also slow-moving traffic. That's heading into Soweto on the Golden Highway between the N1 and Union Avenue. Southgate, we still have slow-moving traffic. This is traveling through towards Diepkloof on the N12 westbound, approaching the Uncle Charlie's interchange. Mother City, also slow-moving traffic. This is due to an accident scene, N1 outbound, approaching Lower Church, and there's also slow-moving traffic on the N1 inbound, approaching the elevated freeway. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Beyond every boardroom is a story waiting to be written. A story of a business and its potential, of a community that thrives, a hospital that serves, and energy that powers millions of dreams. It's a story that only gets better with a partner that has the expertise and solutions to make it a reality. At Absa CIB, we are invested in your story, and we invite you to write it with us, because your story matters. Absa, an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
Light the fire this game day with a winning lineup from Checkers, like Steakhouse Classic Man-Size Rum for 170 Rand per kilo, Fanta Sprite or Stony Soft Drink 2 litres, any 2 for 35 Rand, save 13%, and Monster Energy Drink 500 mils, any 2 for 29 Rand, save 24%. Light the fire, South Africa, and let Checkers do the rest. Deals valid until this Sunday, only at Checkers.
Unfold extraordinary with the brand new Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7 5G 512 gig. Get it on a 6 gig Red Core plan from 1,749 per month over 36 months and double your storage with Vodacom, Zanzi's winning 5G network. Enhance your deal. Add 149 extra per month and get the Galaxy Watch 8 eSIM and Galaxy Buds 3. Available in-store and online. T's and C's apply. Further together. Vodacom.
Collections. Streamlined, secure, and optimized for performance.
Ready, set, cash flow. Corporate banking from RMB. RMB, a division of First Rand Bank Limited, an authorized FSP and credit provider.
WhatsApp Stephen
on 072
702
1702.
Well, some fascinating some fascinating answers to the question about your experience when you last went to a restaurant. One person saying, look, the environment's very competitive. Your Pick and Pay is cooking family filling meals around Benoni. I like their offerings. Sunday lunch is the best and value for money. That's Lungi and Benoni. That's interesting. Zia says, mostly I feel it's value for money, but I do find the price of a glass of wine shocking, especially when the wine is usually the bottom of the range. The markup of alcohol in restaurants is insane. As I understand it, restaurants actually make most of their money in the sale of alcohol. That's kind of how it works. Michael says, in Cape Town, for 2 people, a modest main course, a decent bottle of wine, a cappuccino, no starters, no dessert, costs around 1,000 Rand. That's 500 Rand per person. Isn't that really the issue? Is that, you know, I know some places where you can go out for not a lot of money and you kind of just want to keep going back. And Mornay says, unfortunately, Spur burgers have become too expensive. Even the special, better to do build a burger at home. Yeah, Mornay, I hear you. I think that if you look at the prices that you grew up with and you look at the price now, and I say this with quite a lot of sadness in my heart, I think you can absolutely get that vibe. The cost is just insane. On the other hand, you do get good value for money at some restaurants, at many restaurants, in fact. So you get what you pay for. 011 883 0702 021 446 0567.
Stephen, as a regular Spur client, rather, I haven't seen any revamp. I still sit in those old railway-style furniture outfits. Yeah, it's something to look forward to if they are upgrading the decoy, etc. Yeah, Faisal, cheers.
Faisal, thanks. Yeah, look, I mean, I do think an upgrade also shows a bit of confidence, and that maybe draws people in. You don't want it to be too unfamiliar in a kind of old-style family restaurant, I suppose. 20 minutes now to 7 o'clock.
EWN Sport.
So, Lakela, if you're going to have a hamburger, you're going to go out to get it, you're going to make it at home, you're going to sort of take it, get it out, and then hide the bill?
It kind of depends where we are within the month. Just after payday,
Yes.
I'm definitely going
Yeah.
out. But then when I'm like, okay, let's start to budget, then I'm staying at home and making the burger myself.
So, I love this. The local organising committee has been sorted out, been announced for the Cricket World Cup.
Yes.
And you've got Gayton McKenzie and Trevor Manuel's above Gayton McKenzie in the organogram as the chair.
Absolutely.
Oh, I'm going to watch this.
It's going to be very interesting, Stephen. And that is the top story because Sports Minister Gayton McKenzie has announced the 2027 World Cup Cricket LOC, which will be chaired by former Finance Minister Trevor Manuel and also includes, amongst others, former Deputy President Phumzile Mlambo Ngcuka. On the pitch, the Proteas will look to take an unassailable lead in their series with Australia. That's when they clash in the second ODI tomorrow. Matthew Bretzka believes that Keshav Maharaj holds the key to South Africa winning, having taken career best figures of 5 for 33 in the first game to move to the top of the ICC's ODI bowling rankings.
Well, I hope so. I think he was unreal the other night and won us the game. So if he can do that again tomorrow and help us win the series, that would be great. But the nice thing with this team is that hopefully every guy will stand up and maybe it'll be someone else's chance tomorrow.
In the Rugby Championship, Fraser McWright will captain Australia in Saturday's test against South Africa in Cape Town as he takes over from the injured Harry Wilson. Rob Valentini will replace Wilson as 8-man, while Corey Toole will make his debut, having been named at left wing. For Jean-Luc Dupré and his double World Cup winning teammates, they're looking to avoid back-to-back upsets against the Wallabies.
We're expecting much of the same. We need to give credit to the Aussies. They did quite well. Their turnover attack cut us up a little bit. So for us, it was just working on our defense this week. It's actually my first test start in 7 years. So yeah, that speaks for itself. I would just like to do my best for the team and get us on the front foot. And hopefully we can do a good job on Saturday.
Mamelodi Sundowns insist they are deeply committed to the development, growth and financial sustainability of their players amid a standoff with one-away forward Lucas Ribeiro Costa. The Brazilian has now turned to FIFA's football tribunal in a quest to terminate his contract with the Brazilians. That's amid links with Qatar SC and Fluminense. As for Bafana, their 2026 FIFA World Cup qualification hopes have hit a bump after Themba Zwane was ruled out for 2 months with injury. Without him, Hugo Broos's side will take on Lesotho and Nigeria in back-to-back games at the Free State Stadium next month. The preliminary squad list is out and it features Mohaung Kodam, Duduzi Shabalala and Kulumane Ndamane. Tola Gilemganga, Eyewitness News Sport.
Are you ready? What a question. It seems insane that suddenly you're supposed to know all the answers overnight. When to settle down, what cover you need, how to invest, why you should bother. So, if you're unsure, unsteady, and unstoppable, chat to a Liberty accredited financial advisor to take your first step today. Unready, set, go. Liberty. In it with you. All of you. Liberty Group Limited, a licensed life insurer and authorized FSP and part of the Standard Bank Group. Terms and conditions, risks and limitations apply.
It's that time of the year. Sneezing, itchy, watery eyes, blocked noses and coughs. It's time to live, work, play and sleep allergy-free. For trusted relief for you and your family this allergy season, ask your pharmacist for the Adcock Ingram OTC Allergy Survival Pack. With products like Allergex Non-Drowsy, Cetacid, Levogex, and more, we have you covered. Remember, Adcock Ingram OTC. And visit beprepared365.co.za.
702 and Capitec are showcasing a new, exciting game changer for small and medium businesses, helping you cut costs and grow. Here's how you'll save.
So if we're looking at business is really a team sport. And we want a team who wants to be there. So having an engaged team is really a team that's more productive, it's more creative, it's more committed to the business's success. So building a positive company culture means you've got a team that goes above and beyond, boosting performance.
Small business focus with Capitec. No matter the size of your business, Capitec's got you on 702.
702.
702.
Stephen is on X.
At Stephen Grootes.
So I was driving along in my usual sort of, I suppose almost my rails, they're so regular today. And I was for a moment stuck behind a truck owned by a plumbing company. And I remember I was looking at the name and I thought, geesh, I remember that name. It's not one of these companies that's named after someone. It's not Frank's Plumbers or something. It's actually a plumbing company quite well known that has a very particular name with a dash in the middle. First word begins with an R, the second word begins with an R, and you might, with a little bit of memory, just think about their radio ads and remember them. And I was thinking, I remember that name because I remember it, and I've remembered it for a long time. So there's a bit of sort of brand kind of in my brain, if you like. And I found out today that quite a well-known beds company decided to change their name. Now, names matter. I mean, Coke is Coke. It's not Pepsi Cola. It's Coke. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's a big difference. So why would you go and do that? Well, Joanne Meyer is the head of the bed division at the company now known as Mojo Beds, was known as the Bed Store. Joanne, good evening. Why the change?
Hi, Stephen. Thank you for having me on. Why the change? It's $1 million question, right? It is hard to turn right when you're on a pathway going in a certain direction. But a little background quickly, Stephen, if I may, is Mojo Beds was previously part of the Tapestry Group, which had Choreograph, Volpe's, Dialer Bed, and Mojo Beds, which was previously known as the Bed Store. Dialer Bed's been around for some 30 years. The Bed Store we acquired just before COVID, lucky us. And then 3 years ago we were acquired by the TFG Group as Tapestry home brands. So, in joining the TFG Group is TFG, as you well know, are famous for scaling brands, building brands, and we had a cold look at the mattress market in South Africa. And as you well know, everything's called bed this, bed that, bed that, bed that, bed that. And we did a lot of research, and ours, of course, was called Bed Store, And lo and behold, most of them are navy, as ours was, in terms of logo color. Mm-hmm. So, we did some research and discovered that the customer didn't really differentiate between this bed and that bed and if I asked you to, it's a bit of a sea of similarity out there.
So you needed to find a way to stand out in a way, and you needed to make sure that you had something before the bed.
Exactly. We needed something. We did research, this has been a year in the making, and tried to find a differentiated color, a differentiated story. Bed stores are pretty boring, as everybody, yourself and listeners included, because you walk in a bed store.
You're the one who spent your career in it, not me, so I'll take your word from it.
Sorry about that. Yes, no, we sell white rectangles, right? They all look the same, and yet we sell one of the pillars of health, right? We sell sleep, and we sell sleep equipment, for want of a better word, that helps people sleep better, right? And never more so than at the moment when, we are all bombarded on all our socials about how to be healthier, yada, yada, yada.
Sure.
And sleep is at the center of all of that, right?
And can I ask the choice of the name Mojo? Now, before I go any further in this, I should just point out I have a dog called Mojo. So, I have a few questions about why this. Is it because of what you can do with the word? You can ask someone, how is your mojo? We'll get your bed mojo going. I don't even know what that means. How is your mojo? Your mojo was improved overnight in one of our beds. Is that why you chose it?
Yes, to a certain degree. Mojo, technically I think it's about magic or getting your groove on or whatever. And our kind of a payoff and anthem really is that we're on a Mojo mission to get Mojo sleep at a Mojo price for our Mojo nation. Mojo beds.
Okay.
All right.
So
sorry.
So basically there's a lot you can do with the word, and that's one of the reasons you chose it.
It's memorable. The logo's orange. Nobody's orange, maybe, except who is, but it's orange. It's distinctive. It's clear. It has a story behind it. And we are going to be telling that story of this bed, of this Mojo Beds brand, which is all about Mojo Sleep at a Mojo price. I mean,
Okay.
we all know you do life better with a
Sure.
good night's sleep. You know?
All right, Joanne, enough of the selling. Does it cost a lot of money to change your name?
Yes, ordinarily it costs a lots of millions. Fortunately, our Mojo Beds, or previously the bed store, we didn't have a lot of stores in the ground yet. We had circa 23 of them, so not so much. The big money comes obviously in the scaling of the brand. But yes, it is a costly exercise.
Joanne Mayer,
But
thanks.
we believe it's necessary.
No, sure, I get it. Joanne Mayer, thanks very much indeed. Head of the bed division at Mojo Beds.
Imagine if you could save time like you save money. A second here, a minute there. Type a little faster, walk a little faster. Or you could stop scrolling on the internet. Just think of all the hours you'll save. Now what if you could take all that time and invest it? Watch it grow. Until eventually, one day, you'd have so much time that you wouldn't know what to do with it all. But unfortunately, time doesn't work like that. It can't be stored or banked. And unlike money, you can't make it back. That's why after 50 years of investing, we've learned that time is the greatest gift of all. And the good news is, if you invest early, time gives you money. And then money gives you more time to do whatever you want to do, even if it is scrolling on the internet. Ellen Gray, long-term investing. Ellen Gray is an authorized FSP.
Ever driven 6 hours to get to a place that should have taken 1? Skip the detour with SemAir, a proudly South African full-service airline, connecting you to 16 top destinations, whether it be for business or a break. Baggage included. Onboard snacks, always. Comfort and service, count on it. Because when your time matters, your airline should too. Book now at semair.co.za. SemAir, more from your airline.
The Money Show, Stephen Grootes, is brought to you by ABSA CIB, backing the Ideas Fund by advancing capital to African infrastructure investment managers.
Well, the last few days have seen some interesting developments around telecommunications. You may recall some of the conversations we've had at the Competition Appeal Courts, given its final permission for that merger between Vodacom and Maziv to go ahead. MTN spoke to us this week. Ralph Mapita explaining how they see the future of telecommunications playing out. We've also, of course, got the B20 as part of the G20 at the moment. And one of the members of the Digital Transformation Task Force as part of the B20 is Arun Varghese. He's also the head of a technology, media and telecom sector at RMB. Arun, good evening. I really do appreciate the time. A lot on the go for you, of course, at the moment. There's the sort of, I suppose, a dream, if you like, of everyone in South Africa having access to quite cheap, unmetered, proper fiber broadband access. How do you expect this to play out over the next 5 to 10 years? Will there be big changes?
Thanks, Stephen, for having me. Yes, look, I think South Africa's done an amazing job on the continent of fiberizing most of our metros, and we actually have really excellent national long-distance fiber, and I think we have a lot of connectivity to undersea cable. Where we still have a long way to go is more the lower LSMs and in the rural areas. And already we've seen some of the larger players go out to deploy fiber in those markets. And I'm actually quite positive that over the next 5 to 10 years that we will see both new business models tackling those areas, enabling people to access fiber for relatively low cost and for ubiquitous connectivity for everyone. So yes, I'm quite positive about it.
So you would go through, I think parts of Alex are getting it now. You'll go through all of Soweto, most of Tembisa, for example, and you'll start to see fiber. You'll start to feel it more.
Absolutely. And I think what's interesting is that what's worked in the metro areas is not what will necessarily work in the townships, for example. So what we've seen is the likes of Boomer Reach or Net99 or Fibertime. You know, they've got a different business models, different pricing points, so, sort of like the prepaid model where you can buy, you know, unlimited access for, you know, a couple of rand per day. And I think that's why it's different to what you may have fiber in your nice house in Johannesburg, where you're paying a monthly monthly payment schedule. So I think you got to change how we think of the consumer in the township and adapt the business model for that. And once you have, then you have really a strong uptake.
Everyone's talking about AI at the moment, and you know the sort of the one condition you absolutely have for that, you have to have, is proper sort of fiber type broadband. And I wonder that the rest of the world is changing so quickly in this space. And we're actually falling behind a little bit. I mean, maybe our companies are sort of trying to do what they can, but just as a country, I get the sense that we're falling behind when it comes to AI.
Yeah, look, I think Stephen, it must be put into context that ChatGPT came out in November 2022. You know, we in August 2025. So the space has moved so rapidly, and I think we're all trying to catch up to it, including the larger players globally. So if you look at sort of the EU AI policies, our own government has come out with the South African National AI Policy Framework. It hasn't gone into law yet. So clearly the government is thinking about it. So I think that's the first thing, is to say, well, do we have a framework and policy that actually encourages it? And as part of the B20, we've been trying to push for a common foundation and trying to get some standardization for AI policy globally. And I think that will help also. So I think policy is number one thing that we need to think of, and how does it align with POPIA and other sort of laws we have in the country. So that's step one. Step two is that, you know, all these things need capital. You know, if you look at the spend of the large hyperscalers, they spend CapEx, which is close on the entire GDP of South Africa, close to $400 billion. So it's astronomical amount of money to try and research, develop, and build these models. Our sort of view is that, look, Africa may not be able to compete on that level, but what we can do is encourage investment where we take that technology and apply it to our data and our circumstances to deliver results for the country. So the question then is, how do we encourage that capital investment? And I think the government can play a part here with sort of, you know, taxation laws like Section 12J or 11D, where the tax breaks and investment sort of conditions can encourage corporate to say, hey, invest in the space, put down servers, train the models, you know. So I think that's the second element of it. And the third part, I think where we're lagging right now, is on talent. You know, we need to have the best talent globally to develop these models. And I think that's where we need to urgently address our education curriculum to make sure it's future-proof. So whether it's in TVET or in universities, you know, are we producing enough data scientists and computer scientists and people that can work on these high-end models? And I think that's a really important part. I think if you put all three together, I think we'll get there. I think we're starting to take baby steps. I wouldn't be too harsh on us yet, but I definitely think we move in the right direction.
That issue about, I suppose, AI literacy would be the right phrase. I mean, so even if we get, you know, people have data, the education system's really not necessarily going to help most people deal with that. How big an issue is that sort of AI or digital literacy going to be?
I think it's going to be massive. So look, I think if you take a step back, you're absolutely right. Basic education is, you know, coming down to even having a computer lab where students have access to a computer is already a challenge for most people in this country. So I really think the government and corporates and society needs to think about how we can help improve that access to the basic toolkit. Secondly, we need to think about how do we help our teachers and empowering our teachers. So if you look at what Italy's done in terms of training over 8,000 schools for their educators, you see that trying to educate the educators is actually a really first step that we need to think about. Secondly, we need to think about what's the barriers of access and affordability. Now, I mentioned having a computer at school is a large help, but what about having a phone or a tablet at home that's cheap enough for someone in a township to buy? And secondly, what about the data costs of using that data? And then we already touched on the fiber access. So all three ingredients are actually needed for us to accelerate that. So again, you know, we could think about, do we zero-rate educational websites? So if you go on, you know, do we go into a public-private partnership with the MNOs to provide, you know, free data for some of these websites and courses, right? And I suppose, so that's the second element of it. The third element is the content to teach AI must be accessible. So how do we create the right programs across the board? And if you look at Singapore, you know, they revamped their curricula to have over 1,000 AI courses. So clearly, it's been done in other parts of the world. And the question is, can we learn from the best practices and how do we bring it back? But I absolutely agree with you. The foundation of getting people basic education and basic access is still a hindrance and something that we have a long way to go on.
Arun, thanks very much indeed. Arun Varghese is the head of technology, media and telecom sector at RMB, also a member of the Digital Transformation Task Force. That's part of the B20 leading into the G20, which will be here in South Africa a little later this year. You at The Money Show, we'll be talking about tech in a moment. We'll be talking about why US immigration wants to look at your firm, small business focus and investment school, all of that to come. Good evening, it's 7 o'clock.
This is EWN.
Good evening, I'm Maki Malapo. The Gauteng High Court has overturned the suspension of a ruling to provide cancer patients with radiation treatment after the Health Department stalled its implementation, citing unrealistic timelines and a lack of finances. The Cancer Alliance and Section 27 have been on a long-drawn legal battle on behalf of at least 3,000 patients whose health has deteriorated while waiting for treatment, some as long as 3 years. According to the organizations, the biggest treatment backlog is at Charlotte Maxeke and Steve Biko academic hospitals, respectively, with the situation having life-threatening consequences for patients. Health Department spokesperson Motaletale Modiba says they accept the latest judgment and will consult on a way forward.
We are currently in a process of carefully looking into the ruling to fully appreciate its contents and implications. Once this review has been concluded, the department will determine and communicate the appropriate course of action.
The lawyers arguing on behalf of the Competition Commission have asked the Constitutional Court to set aside a ruling barring certain independent banks from being tried for rand manipulation. The Commission approached the Apex Court to challenge a ruling by the Competition Appeal Court. The Appeal Court had ruled that the Competition Tribunal does not have jurisdiction to prosecute about 28 banks that were implicated in price fixing of the rand. The initial report flagged Absa, Nedbank, Standard Bank and First Rand to be among those who had taken part in the manipulation between 2007 and 2013. Khomotso Modise has more.
Originally, 28 banks were referred to the Competition Commission for rand manipulation, but over the years, some have settled with the Commission, while others were released by the Competition Appeal Court. According to the allegation, the banks had used Bloomberg's instant messaging service for price fixing and market division when trading with the US dollar and rand exchange. In addition to some South African banks, some international entities such as JP Morgan and HSBC Bank were also flagged. But in January last year, the Competition Appeal Court ruled that South Africa's Competition Tribunal has no jurisdiction to prosecute the banks because the price fixing was not done in the country. If the Commission's appeal is successful in the Apex Court, then 13 banks will be referred to the Tribunal for prosecution. After 3 days of arguments, judgment in the matter has been reserved. Khomotso Modise, Eyewitness News.
National Police Commissioner Fani Masemola says he has not yet been approached to testify before the judicial inquiry into alleged corruption within the criminal justice system. Masemola, who is locked in a court battle with his deputy Shadrack Sibiya over his decision to place him on leave, is expected to be called before the commission. The inquiry was established by President Cyril Ramaphosa after KwaZulu-Natal Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi accused Sibiya of diverting political killings dockets to Gauteng, where they were allegedly neutralized. Mungezi Koko has more.
A defiant Masemola has dismissed suggestions that he acted improperly in directing Sibiya to step aside, repeating his position in court papers. Speaking on the sidelines of a 420 million rand drug destruction operation in Gauteng, he confirmed he has not been contacted to testify when the commission begins on the 1st of September.
We'll wait the call, probably we'll call and we will go. We won't be hesitant to go, so that's basically where we are.
Asked about his relationship with Mkhwanazi, Masemola said they have spoken and he is ready to give evidence if required. Mungezi Koko, Eyewitness News.
The City of Tshwane says it expects to have a master plan in place by December in what it hopes will be a blueprint to revive the loss-making Wonderboom Airport. The airport, which is owned by the Tshwane municipality, has been running at a huge loss for a number of years, leading to suggestions it should be pawned off to the private sector. But the city says it won't put its assets up for sale, opting instead to pull in investors to help with recovery efforts. Tshwane's MMC for Roads and Transport, Tlangi Mogale, says the city has approved a 4-tier plan to stabilize airport operations and governance. Mogale joined Tshwane Mayor Nasiphi Moya today at a media briefing ahead of the city's inaugural investment set for next month.
Most importantly, we've got a projected 7.2 billion rands that is required to turn around and grow the airport. So in order for us to do that, we've realized that we cannot keep it within us, but we need to allow it to run independently with a proper board and a senior management so that they're able to account properly, but also we're able to take it to the market.
Mogale says an overhaul will take some time.
So by December we'll be done with the master plan, but obviously it means that's when the actual work starts. It doesn't mean everything will be done by December, but it basically says we'll have a proper guiding document to say how do we go about on issues of getting a transactional advisor.
Post Bank has assured grant beneficiaries that they will continue to receive their funds as usual after false reports that the company's master services agreement is expiring and will in turn affect beneficiaries. Post Bank has urged grant recipients to disregard the reports, emphasizing that the absence of the MSA does not affect SASSA payments. Chief Commercial Officer at Post Bank, Thamsanqa Cele, says there is no need for beneficiaries to change their payment methods or open new bank accounts.
In spite of unfortunate media utterances in relation to SASSA and Postbank contract coming to an end, which is not entirely true. But in spite of that, we just want to assure beneficiaries that their grant will not and cannot be interrupted.
And Nigeria has deported 102 foreign nationals convicted of cyber terrorism and internet fraud. The deportees, which include 60 Chinese nationals and 39 Filipinos, are among more than 700 suspected cyber criminals arrested in a single operation in Lagos. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission says more deportations are scheduled in the coming days. The agency says foreign gangs recruited Nigerian accomplices to find victims online through phishing scams in which attackers typically deceive victims to transfer them money or reveal sensitive information such as passwords. Gold's trading at $3,341.70 an ounce. The rand's at 17.72 to the dollar, at 23.78 to the pound, at 20.58 to the euro. Brent crude oil's at $67.50 a barrel.
In Edenville, heading towards Bedford View, there's bumper-to-bumper traffic. This is on the R24 westbound between Edenville Road and the Gilulis interchange in Kluerkoop. There's also slow-moving traffic. This is on Allendale Road, opposite Mamelodi Sundowns headquarters. This is approaching Zeerfontein Road. And in the mother city, there's slow-moving traffic. N1 inbound, heading towards the elevated freeway.
Look at your weather. Clear skies in store for Gauteng tomorrow. Joburg will drop to overnight lows of 11 degrees and peak at highs of 28. Pretoria is at 11 and 29. Vereeniging is at 6 and 27 degrees. Partly cloudy skies in store for the mother city tomorrow, along with isolated showers and rain, as well as strong northwesterly winds at a low of 14 and a high of 16 degrees. The top story in Eyewitness News this hour. The Gauteng High Court has overturned the suspension of a ruling to provide cancer patients with radiation treatment after the Health Department stalled its implementation, citing unrealistic timelines and a lack of finances.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
And now, The Money Show
with Stephen Grootes on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes is brought to you by ABSA CIB, backing the Ideas Fund by advancing capital to African infrastructure investment managers. Good evening, 9 minutes after 7, plenty to come. We will talk about what's happening. There are quite a few stories around it, around what's happening when you enter the United States at the moment, and customs officers, or immigration officers really, are asking if they can look at your phone, by which I mean, can we have your password, please, and go into your phone? What are they looking for? Siphumelele Zondi is looking at that. I mean, there are lots of issues around privacy. Let me put it another way. Apart from you, who has your password to your phone? Nobody? Yeah, I thought so. One person has my part. In fact, two people, because one saw me do it, but I know them. But still, I mean, how many people have your password? It's quite a big thing to give up. Don't forget, also in Small Business Focus tonight, Bulelani Balabala, he'll be talking about female entrepreneurs, how important that sector of our community is. And then don't forget, in Investment School tonight, we'll be looking at where to put your money. Offshore, or are our assets still undervalued? There's a great conversation there about whether you go rand or whether you go dollar.
The Money Show
with Stephen Grootes, live on 92.7 and 106 FM, streaming on the Prime Media Plus app
and DSTV channel 856.
I don't know if you've been in any of these shops, unless you've been in very specific places in South Africa. You might have had to be overseas. When you go into a shop, a normal, whatever it is, a supermarket retailer, and you don't actually pay to a cashier, your trolley does it for you, or you go past the machine and it tells you how much you have to pay. And I noticed Checkers are trialing in 2 stores, I think both in Cape Town. They're trialing this, where basically as you put something into the trolley, it'll tell you what your current total is, and then you pay and off you go. I've only done this once. I was in London, was 2017, so call it 8 years ago. I knew that this store was like that. There were a couple of cashiers, but you could do it automatically. I tried the automatic option, but I was obviously too stupid to make it work. So eventually I went with the human. But I just think it's the beginning of the end of human cashiers, because it is going to be cheaper. I mean, you just can't get around that. And I wonder what that means. But have you tried it? Have you done it? What's your experience been like? And I have a few questions about, what if the machine gets something wrong? And I mean, that's entirely possible. What if you do something wrong and you walk out perfectly innocently, and now because there's a machine, no one can say, no, it was clearly a mistake? I know that happens in stores, and sometimes they have a sort of must arrest on site policy, which is, very kind of RoboCop. Your thoughts, 011 883 0702 021 446 0567, and your experiences on 072 702 1702.
The Money Show, Tech Thursday.
Well, I don't know if you've been watching this, but it seems in the US, more people who are entering the country, they're landing at an airport or whatever, and as they go in, they're being asked by immigration officials to give them their contents of their phone. Basically, they ask for your password and then have a look. If you want to go into the States, this is what you have to do. Siphumelele Zondi is our tech expert. Siphumelele, good evening. What happens if the person in the uniform says, give me your password, and you say, no?
Hello, Stephen. Well, in all likeliness, is that they're going to make your life very difficult. So this is actually not a new law or regulation in the United States of America. It's just that before it didn't really happen that much, and now we are hearing reports of it happening very often. Actually, it's not even to say more and more. It seems like almost every week you hear of this thing happening in the United States of America. But if you say no, they can make your life very difficult, because they are allowed by law to check your phone. And these are specifically government officials at the airport. So the police outside the airport, they have to get some sort of warrant from court in order for them to ask for your phone and to check your phone in the United States. But at the airport itself, government officials are allowed to ask for your phone and to go through what you've been doing on your phone.
I mean, I presume they can't do this to an American citizen. This is about who has rights where. And when you're entering a country, they're actually allowed, in most countries, they're allowed to be quite intrusive if they want to.
Oh, totally, they can do it to American citizens. There was actually a big case a couple of years ago. There was a man who was Somali by birth, but he was an American citizen, who eventually took them to court and was suing the state over being stopped at the airport, taken to a room. His phone was taken away. They went through the phone. They found nothing in the end, and they had to let him go. But that also then suggests that they can do it to American citizens as well.
Sure. What are they looking for, Siphumelele?
Just about anything. So they can go through your social media, and they are looking to find out if for example, you're not bringing anything you shouldn't be bringing into the country. They can go through your conversations to find out if there's anything that can lead them to some terrorism that might be taking place in the country, or that you could be planning with others, or even if you are on a tourist visa and perhaps you are planning to work in the country. But there have been this year some reports of people who say they've been turned back because their social media pages had some political commentary that did not agree with those border officials. So even your political views, according to some reports of some individuals who've been turned back, say your political views can get you turned back from the US this year.
Sure. Are there ways that you can protect your device? I mean, I suppose for a lot of people, there's social media and social media, right? What do you say on X? Anyone can see. I know some people see WhatsApp as social media. And I imagine, having someone going through your WhatsApps is a completely different kettle of fish.
So it really does depend. You can decide that you're going to the US and maybe you have stuff that you're worried you could be turned away for, maybe some conversations that you would have had. Leave your one device at home and take a different device. You can remove social media and back it up in the on a cloud-based platform. But you really have to ensure that you almost use a needle to go through what you've been chatting about on social media. But backing up everything on a cloud platform, if you want to remove just about everything that could get you into trouble if you enter the United States.
They would know, obviously, if you've wiped everything, right?
Oh, yeah. There are ways of knowing, unless perhaps you really go to your deleted apps as well, and you delete from there as well. But there is stuff that can, even if you think you've deleted it, that can still be retrieved. So it's not everything that can be completely wiped out, but a lot of the stuff can be. If you give them time, they probably can bring everything back up again.
Sure. It'll be taking a lot of time to do it. We have acts, we have laws that protect our information, the POPI Act, POPIA, things like that. Do they have something similar in the US? Maybe not for people entering the country, I don't know.
Not if you're entering the country, because if you're entering the country, they say that it's the first basically line of security into the country. So if you're entering the country, and it's actually not unique to the United States of America, even some European governments do this as well. So if you're entering countries, they can ask for your cell phone, go through the cell phone. Once you're in the country, yes, there are laws that then protect you, and they have to go to court if they want information from your phone. But on entry, nothing really protects you that much.
What should people do then if you delete everything? It looks suspicious. If you you don't really know what you're being searched for, and it's actually, if you look at the sheer number of people who go into the States every day, they're not doing this to everybody. It's probably quite a slim chance that your phone will actually be searched in this way. It might happen, but it's not the majority of people, I presume. There just simply isn't the time.
It might happen, as you rightfully say, it's not the majority of people, but there have been, the number has been increasing this year. People even don't need visas to enter the United States. Some European countries, they've also had increased reports of being turned back from the United States. There are people who even say it's not even your device right this year. And it's what you've said on social media platforms, where you find that they somehow found out what you've been saying on social media platforms. And interestingly, ahead of the World Cup next year, they in American airports, they want to introduce biometric and electronic methods of checking security at the airport. So they're increasing it and adding even more layers ahead of the World Cup next year at the airport in the United States.
Sure. Siphumelele Zondi, thanks very much indeed, the tech expert. Very interesting. You might well have a view on that. Would you give up your password? Would you let someone look at your phone to go into another country? 011 883 0702 021 446 0567.
Light the fire this game day with a winning lineup from Checkers, like Steakhouse Classic man-size rum for 170 Rand per kilo, Fanta Sprite or Stony soft drink 2 litres, any 2 for 35 Rand, save 13%, and Monster Energy drink 500 mils, any 2 for 29 Rand, save 24%. Light the fire, South Africa, and let Checkers do the rest. Deals valid until this Sunday, only at Checkers.
Unlock exciting bonus prizes when you top up your Betway account with a Betway Bucks voucher. From millions in cash and bonuses to extra bets and so much more, every top up is a chance to score big. Head over to leading retailers, including Pick and Pay, Checkers, Pep Stores, and Incredible Connection, and top up with Betway today. Terms and conditions apply. Betway is licensed and regulated by the Western Cape Gambling and Racing Board. No persons under the age of 18 are permitted to gamble. South African Responsible Gambling Program toll-free counseling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp help to 076 675 0710. Winners know when to stop.
Feeling some lag in Sector 3?
Copy. Optimizing working capital. Ready. You're approaching a tight corner. Cash flow pressure ahead.
Low on liquidity. Supply pressure is building. Set.
Deploying cash injection in 3, 2, 1. Flow.
Nice move. Better supply chain control.
Lab time advantage. Faster cash cycles, leaner inventory, and optimized working capital.
Ready, set, cash flow. Corporate banking from RMB. RMB, a division of First Rand Bank Limited, an authorized FSP and credit provider.
The Money Show. Small business focus.
Small Business Focus is brought to you by Capitec. Start up or scale up with Capitec, the business bank for everyone. Well, it is Women's Month, and as you know, many of the entrepreneurs in our society are women, running all sorts of things, starting businesses, running businesses, and employing people. Bulelani Bolabala is a business speaker and township entrepreneur. Bulelani, good evening to you. Thanks so much for coming in tonight. We've seen the role of women in the entrepreneurship economy really start to grow for many, many reasons.
Yeah, definitely. I think for me, I want to pull a quote from a very, very dynamic business lady, right? Tanya, out in the US. And she says something phenomenal. I lost this, forgot her surname. Apologies. But she says, if women were an economy, they'd be in the top 5 most influential economies in the world. And I think for me, you sort of take it a couple of steps back and you look at the individuals who've actually driven and continue to drive the township economy. I pull some inspiration from a lady by the name of Rita Zwane, who pioneered the Shisanyama industry, out in Tembisa and Ebony Park. And I think there's many other women that have done dynamic work. And I think when you sort of think about how they drove the economy and how they played, especially in the townships and the rural communities and other parts of the country, majority of the men back in the days worked in mines. And as a result, the women were the ones tending to the children. And out of that necessity, they were able to then see that there are no real market opportunities, just waiting for month end and getting money. So while I wait, let me reinvest that, either bake or do other sorts of things. So they played a critical role in driving the economy. So I think for me, when we sort of then take on the conversation really in and around the gender lens, it should not necessarily be tick box exercises to try and get a certain cohort within an organization moving, but it's to understand them and to think of them as a mass market, but most importantly, individuals who actually are the leader in terms of buying power, because they not only make their own individual decisions at different life stages, but they make decisions on behalf of their children up until they have consenting age.
Do you find that, are there particular problems or particular issues that affect women entrepreneurs more than men? On one level, there shouldn't be many, but I can just imagine, we know that women and men tend to have different incomes, so just getting starting capital maybe.
No, definitely. I think you sort of hit the nail on the head on that one. Definitely, in most cases, depending on the industry that you're in, there's stereotypes that you need to work through or work over for you to actually get your voice and be recognized, whether you're a woman in business or you're a professional within a various space. In certain instances as well, some of the big drivers and dynamics really are in and around the money management conversation, and you're already making little and you need to stretch that across the board. You look at the fact that majority of households are female-led. They're led by grandmothers or mothers or young ladies who are then single mothers in most cases. So you need to then consistently find yourself in situations where you're consistently stretching the rand. But I think for me, even in and around that, it says, what then do we then do as men to then create an enabling environment for the ladies that work for us, the ladies that work with us, the ladies that we work for them to be enabled in the environments that they're in, so that they can find expression. Because I think the moment you sort of look at it that way, then you then start to understand that in actual fact there are opportunities in being able to then scale out my research and understanding what are the dynamics that we could build into business and understanding this amazing, I guess, in certain instances, and I think at some point we ran a workshop called the Female Economy that not only spoke about the how do we support the women, but what opportunities do they drive because they're a dynamic opportunity. Economy.
Yeah. It's also, of course, in some economies you are only using half of your brain power. I mean, what a waste. I mean, it's quite bizarre. So when you're encouraging people into the workforce, I mean, one of the things you need to do into the entrepreneurial space is manage your spending habits. You need to manage all of those things. And often I've found that women who are the main caregiver understand money much better than I do, because they know exactly what it can buy for a child. Whereas I'm a little bit, I don't know, head in the clouds sometimes about things like that.
I mean, I think, and I love what you're asking now, because I think the best example is the fact that I've got 2 boys, and the most I spend on a haircut is $30. But let me tell you, their mother has pushed me to spend up to 500 Rand because they do funky things with their hair. But they end up looking good at the end of the day. But I think that then goes back to the fact that the things that I think of in a simplistic manner, women will sort of drive. And I think also what we've then seen dynamically happen is that even when you give her the least of the least, she'll find ways of stretching it, and pull out a bunch of roses with one seed. And I think for me, when you don't think about that, it then talks to the fact that what is there a level of financial abuse at some points that we are driving down the throats of the women that we have around us. Some of the things that we pose out there to them as protective, but in actual fact, it's frustrating them because of insecurities. Could we then create an enabling environment for them to thrive? And I think when you then think about that, then it then talks to the fact that as a woman, am I separating my personal money from my business's money? Do I have financial prudence and systems in place for me to be able to actually grow and scale this business? And purely because I understand that sometimes in the dynamics of the work environment, I work with men that might not necessarily hear me out because they're thinking about other things. How then do I then navigate those dynamics so that I'm able to then still deliver on what I need to deliver on, so that I'm not frustrated by individuals who cannot control themselves?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on there. I mean, I sometimes wonder if the biggest sort of thing holding you back is just that after dark, if you're a woman on your own running a spaza shop, it's incredibly dangerous. And it's dangerous because of, unfortunately, people who look like you and I.
No, definitely true. I mean, you then, I mean, I pull, I think based off what you're saying now, I mean, I pull expression or some inspiration from some of the things that we were taught. I think at a very young age, without being told, take care of women or create enabling spaces for women, we're taught dynamic things. And those dynamic things by our grandmothers and grandfathers, to give the chair to a woman. When you were in a train, you gave chairs. When you were opening doors, you were taught to open those doors. But we live in an age that says it's a dog eat dog, all of us are equal. And what then are some of the indirect effects of that is that you see things like GBV and so on and so forth. So I think for me, we then need to then rewire our brains to say, yes, all of us are trying to get ahead. But if we have our women who are the caregivers for economy and who are the caregivers and the breadwinners, if we create that environment for them to thrive, guess what? The economy thrives.
Yeah, no, it's such a good point. I sometimes wonder if we're going to find that actually the JSE one day is going to have a lot more women than men in terms of the top positions, because actually, in my experience, I'm getting into trouble for saying this, they're often better bosses, and people want to work for them more. I can see people in the production booth sort of almost falling over. But actually, you might find that becomes the key thing, is how you manage people. You want to make money. How you manage people is going to matter the most. So when you're starting a business, maybe you're just managing yourself. But the moment you hire your first person, you start to have to manage people. And that takes up a big part of your day. And it's a big part of whether your business is going to be productive or not.
No, definitely. I mean, there's a couple of things. There's 2 things here. I think on the one, I mean, majority of the opportunities we've received in business that really catapulted us to the next level really were advocated by women in corporate. Quite an interesting but also very encouraging phenomenon. On the other hand, because we do a lot of work in townships and we work with over 100,000 township entrepreneurs, it's quite interesting. I think the first 5 to about 6 years, majority of participants in various programs, grant-based funding, were men. And then we've sort of seen the dial change over the years, and I think but 72% of participants is female. So you're seeing this genuine hunger from these young women between the ages of 25 and 35, really just putting their hands up saying, no one is going to do it for me. I'm going to need to do it myself, and I'm going to make sure that I put myself out there to get all the tools that I need for me to scale and grow myself to the next level.
It's so interesting. Thank you very much indeed, Bulalani Balabala's a business speaker and township entrepreneur.
Why pay more for business banking? Does your account come with a private jet, a 5-star lunch, a butler named James? Didn't think so. At Capitec, you get the same low fees as personal banking, so you always know what you get and what you pay. Open your account in minutes and save up to 50% on transaction fees. Visit capitecbank.co.za to get started. Capitec, the business bank for everyone. Capitec is an authorized FSP. 46669. Conditions apply.
Don't forget, investment school is next. Should you keep your money here? Should you take it offshore? Is there a lot more space for South African shares to grow? But first, Maki Malapo. Maki, hi. Operation Dudula, stern warning to them today.
Yes, Parliament's chairpersons on health and education says they won't allow undocumented migrants to continue being blocked from entering health facilities and schools. Good evening. They've condemned the actions of Operation Dudula, which has been preventing suspected foreign nationals from entering hospitals and clinics and threatening to block the admission of children in the new academic year. Chairperson of the Health Committees, Bongiseni Dlomo, says while the concerns of limited resources can't be ignored, the National Health Insurance guarantees free access to care. Lindsay Dentlinger has more.
Parliament has condemned the actions of Operation Dudula activists, saying it won't tolerate lawlessness at health facilities and public schools. Health Chairperson Sibungiseni Dlomo says he's been discussing with the Health Minister laws related to citizens, refugees and immigration to determine how to address the concerns raised about foreign nationals accessing government services.
Some of these acts are very wide and encompassing what some of the people are in their views are saying. Maybe they should actually have a bit of limitation.
Chairperson of the Select Committee on Education, Maki Feni, says he doesn't agree with an approach to stop children believed to be those of foreign parents from attending school.
We're not going to allow anarchy to coexist with governance.
He's invited Operation Dudula activists to discuss their concerns with government rather than to threaten drastic action when it can't be proven at face value whether children have legal documents. Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News, Parliament.
Civil society movement, the Activists and Citizens Forum, is urging members of the criminal justice system to provide corruption-related information to the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry. Yesterday, the inquiry into corruption in the system announced it would commence with the hearings on the 1st of September. The commission was established by the President in July, just days after KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi made public a series of explosive allegations of corruption and political interference. Dennis Bloom of Activists and Citizens Forum says they will closely monitor the Madlanga Judicial Commission of Inquiry as well as Parliament's ad hoc committee that will investigate Mkhwanazi's allegations.
All those who are hell-bent in capture the criminal justice system for the second time must be exposed and must face the full might of the law.
Build One South Africa leader Mmusi Maimane has called on the legacy foundations that withdrew from the National Dialogue organising team to return. The dialogue has faced setbacks after groups like the Thabo Mbeki and Steve Biko foundations withdrew. The organisations cited insufficient budget and limited preparation time as reasons for their withdrawal ahead of last week's first national convention. Build One South Africa held a media briefing in Johannesburg today addressing issues surrounding the dialogue. Alpha Ramushana was there.
Since President Cyril Ramaphosa announced the formation of the National Dialogue, several political parties have declined to take part in the initiative. The withdrawal of the legacy foundations, who've long been advocating for such a dialogue, came as an even greater shock. Build One South Africa leader Mmusi Maimane says the process has clearly been politicized, which risks undermining its purpose.
This is a once-in-a-generation opportunity. We mess this national dialogue up, be assured we will not be able to hold another one. Therefore, it's within that context that we have to do everything possible to ensure that the process is not politicized, that it is not corrupted.
Maimane urges the legacy foundations to return to the National Dialogue's preparatory task team. He says broad participation from all sectors of society is essential. Alpha Ramshwana, Eyewitness News, Johannesburg.
In the UK, union leaders have warned that the gender gap means that retired women can go 4 months of the year without a pension compared to men. The Trades Union Congress estimates that women are losing an equivalent of 7,600 a year on average. Due to this, that is roughly 181,000 rand. In its report, the union highlights how income and gender inequality in retirement are larger than in the working population. The union says in light of this, the income gap between men and women in retirement should be central to the inquiry by the Pensions Commission, which government launched last month. The commission is expected to examine why retirement incomes have failed to meet expectations after reforms more than a decade ago forced employers to enroll staff in occupational pension schemes. A look at your weather. A fine Friday in store for Gauteng tomorrow. Temperatures will drop to overnight lows between 6 and 11 degrees and peak at highs between 27 and 29 degrees. A partly cloudy Friday for Cape Town with isolated showers and rain along with strong northwesterly winds at a low of 14 and a high of 16 degrees. The top story in Eyewitness News. Parliament's chairpersons on health and education say they won't allow undocumented migrants to continue being blocked from entering health facilities and schools.
My friend always says, not my problem, bro. But what if it was your sister, your mother, your daughter? Gender-based violence is everyone's problem. And good men don't look away. If you see abuse, don't be silent. Report it. Call the SA Police on 10111 or the GBVF Command Center on 0800 428 428. Strong men protect. Strong women stand up. Together, we can end gender-based violence and femicide. Break the vicious cycle. Act now. A message from Government Communications, the GCIS.
In a world where a lot can change in 6 years, you can rest assured knowing that Hino's 6-year drivetrain warranty won't. All Hino trucks now come standard with a 6-year drivetrain warranty protecting your investment all the way from pistons to gears. Built to keep your business moving, supporting uptime, growth and daily operations, because although a lot can change in 6 years, their warranty promise won't. T's and C's apply. Hino, all the way.
Feel the exhilarating power and performance. Feel the anticipation of a new adventure around every corner. Feel the breathtaking wonder of Mzansi's epic scenery. Feel the luxe vibes and the good times. Feel it all and more with the Ultimate Shell V-Power VIP experience. Spend 750 rands 3 times this month and tap your V Plus rewards card for a chance to win one of 5 epic road trip and trek experiences for 2. T's and C's apply.
The Money Show.
Investment School.
The Investment School is brought to you by ABSA Business Banking. Talk business with the bank that gets it. ABSA Business Banking. Well, if you look at US stocks right now, you can see a retreat from most of the stocks that people have been telling you to buy for the last 5 years or so. I'm talking about the tech stocks. At the same time, the JSE is up dramatically over the last 18 months, despite a long period before that in which it was really undervalued. So, tonight's question, do you keep your money here at home where maybe there are some dangers, but you understand them? Do you take it overseas where, well, that can be pretty dangerous too? Some places, of course, are a little bit safer. Patrick Matidi is the head of equities at Alawani Capital Partners. Gary Boyson is the director at Rand Swiss. Gary's in the studio. Patrick's on Zoom with us tonight. Good evening, gentlemen. Patrick, let me just start with you. I mean, does it matter what kind of investor you are and why you're investing when you even start this conversation? And it's a big conversation.
Yeah, good evening, Stephen, and thanks for having me. Look, I think the offshore-onshore debate, I think we need to take a step back and demystify a few what I call myths, right? In that, if you look at companies in this day and age, I mean, they operate globally, right? So the fact that a company is listed on the JSE as opposed to elsewhere does not necessarily make it a local entity, in terms of its earnings. And we did a study a few years back where I think about 80% of the earnings on the JSE actually come from outside of South Africa. So when you then say, local versus offshore, purely from an earnings point of view, which is the key driver of returns, that debate, gets a bit skewed. But to answer your question, it doesn't really matter what kind of investor you are, because all investors want the same thing, and that is as much returns as possible, for as very little risk, that one can take. So if you can get, those returns wherever, then great. But obviously be aware of the risks that come with it. And I suppose then the macros then start to determine, the risk profile of, let's say, SA or JSE versus offshore.
Gary, before we go any further, I mean, it's important to remember if you just took an index fund in the JSE, so you bought, a portion of every share in the JSE, you're still investing overseas because so much of it is NASPAS and thus China or Process and thus Europe.
Yeah, and it's a great point. And that really comes down to market risk. And I think, if you're considering local versus offshore investment, you've also got to look at almost the operational mechanics of how the different markets work. So remember, all South African investors, we're very constrained because we still have exchange controls as well. So if you're looking for a direct offshore investment, you're going to have to use that 1 million, single discretionary allowance. You're going to have to do an application, for the authorized international transfer. If you want to take, up to 10 million out, that's from date of approval onwards. So there's a lot more kind of operational mechanics that go into kind of creating a deposit overseas, and it does add, I suppose, a burden to some investors. But at the same time, you've also got to consider it in the context of the scope of products that you have available. So if you look at a US dollar platform, for example, I mean, the instruments are almost unlimited. And when I say unlimited, I mean we work with 2 international banks, and the investment options are literally around 3 million. Different investment options.
Jeez.
I mean, you compare that to our local market.
To do that all day.
Yeah, even if you look at like JSE listed securities, sure. Now we're talking equities. I mean, we bring in the bond market, we bring in all the LISPs and all the different funds, bring in the hedge funds. We are not even scratching the surface of what is available in the world, and I think that's really the appeal for the offshore investor is just that scope of products that you have available. Like you can really and I agree to an extent that, yes, everyone is chasing, the best risk-weighted returns. Everyone wants performance. Everyone wants to do it at low risk. But different investors do have very different preferences, and you get very different access points to different geographies and very different themes that you can explore when you're in the offshore space.
Patrick, I do want to just sort of ask another question. If you're doing investing yourself and you want to keep things simple, might that be a reason to keep more of it in South Africa because it's an environment you might just understand better and you don't have, 2,999,000 other products to consider?
Yeah, it may be a consideration, but also do bear in mind that the JSE, does offer offshore investments on its platform, right? So you don't have to really, sort of do a lot of homework if you just want an index. Now you can get a global MSCI index of the JSE. You can get an S&P tracker and the likes. So yes, and the way you access those is the same as if you're buying an ABSA or Standard Bank on the JSE. So simplicity is important, but I think it should not cloud your offshore versus offshore sort of investment.
So, Patrick, am I right then that the cost to invest offshore and the cost to invest in South Africa, there isn't much difference? There isn't a lot of friction involved, or do you find that you do lose a little bit when you take it out?
So I think what was said earlier is important in terms of your initial setup. So the fact that you have to apply and get approval from the SARB and then get your bank also to give you forex currency and open a forex account, custody accounts and settlement accounts, that ongoing operational cost can add to a total cost. But the actual buying and selling of instruments, what we do find is in some instances, especially in markets that have got very deep liquidity, that marginal cost is actually a lot better offshore versus on the JSE, especially when you start to look at stocks that perhaps are not that liquid, and therefore, at the risk of becoming a little bit too technical, where you find the bid-offer spread is not as tight, so you can actually have a much higher implicit cost, in your trading activities.
Okay, so Gary, I do want to go back to this issue of sort of safety versus risk, right? And you could put all your money in Switzerland and you would kind of know in 20 years it'll still be there, but won't really have done anything. And so that kind of question then becomes, what are you looking for? If you want yield, in other words, you want to grow it, you want to put it in a much more exciting place than Switzerland.
I think there's a lot to that question. So if you have a look at it, again, it comes down to what you're ultimately investing in. And I mean, let's go back to the cost for a second as well. If you're looking at the different instruments, generally, if you're using a feeder fund, so if you're going and buying an S&P 500, tracker on the local exchange, there is a cost, an increased cost in that as well. So if you look at something like the Vanguard S&P 500, the ticker is VOO overseas, VOO, you're talking about 3 basis points in terms of ongoing management fee. I mean, that's 10 times cheaper than a South African equivalent, which is already very, very cheap. So there is an advantage to cost overseas. I think, you talk about Switzerland. I mean, Swiss bank accounts that we set up for clients, you would think, oh, it's a Swiss bank account. There's got to be this enormous cost. 60 francs per year if you're under $40,000. I mean, to kind of work that back, that's just it's under 110 rand a month. That's cheaper than a South African bank account.
Yeah.
So I think there has been huge advances in financial technology overseas that has really contracted the costs in a big way. In terms of the hunt for yield that you're talking about as well. I mean, one of I think our preferred spaces at the moment is the South African bond market. I mean, you get these enormous real yields, even with the tick up in inflation that we saw yesterday, and that's exciting. But part of the reason that you're getting that higher yield is because there's a higher risk premium as well, and because of that higher risk premium, your money is technically at more risk. Now, if you think about it, again, it comes down to the scope of products. With 3 million different instruments that you can invest in globally, you really can tailor it all the way across the efficient frontier. You can go from everything from, a US Treasury as essentially a US dollar risk-free investment, all the way up the risk spectrum to a very aggressive geared product that delivers a lot of return. And there's everything in between as well. So I think it's important to understand who you're investing on behalf of. It's important to understand the mandate that you're investing in. But the idea that, just because it's a developed market, there's no returns, I think that's a dangerous assumption to make. There are very, very exciting investment opportunities globally. I mean, South Africa makes up in GDP terms, I think 0.5% of global GDP. It's a small market. Yet at the same time, there's I don't know. There's something about the local exchange that is very, very appealing. I mean, when I say we're a small market in terms of our economic output, but we're not a small market in terms of the number of listed instruments. I think the JSE is the 16th biggest exchange in the world. So I mean that's significant as well. So there is a lot of option for local investors, but I think it's understanding who you're investing for. It's understanding the mandate, and it's just making sure that that's aligned.
And I suppose, Patrick, there's also within the JSE, a lot of variety in terms of whether you're going to spend all your money on South African retail, which has done pretty well, or South African banking, one of them's done pretty well, or whether you're going to actually spread yourself, or whether you're going to invest in gold stocks right now. In other words, the JSE is very varied.
Yeah, it is varied, but not as varied as some of the other markets. So a big push for us in investing client monies offshore is diversification, right? So if you look at the JSE, yes, there are good opportunities and good quality stocks, but there are just some sectors that you have no access to, right? So if you look at pharmaceuticals, and it's a very, very narrow sector on the JSE, but if you look globally, it is very, very broad. So you can play, from generics all the way through to, sort of a new age, very complex type of stuff that some of these companies are doing. If you look at technology, for example, if you don't like Naspers, you don't have much else to go. But if you look globally, the whole AI world, it's almost like your oyster. If you look at upcoming, sort of sectors that perhaps have not done well in the past, but now offering value, given some of the global macro sort of changes, things like defense, right? We've got nothing on the JSE, but if you look at Europe, look at the US, those are big sectors. So diversification is quite a big drive. Yes, you can diversify locally, but only to a certain extent, right? So if you look at banking, you've got the big four. Outside of that, you start to scramble a little bit. But yes, amongst the big four, you can cherry pick and hopefully get it right, through time. But elsewhere, globally, you have a lot more variety within which to pick. And therefore, when you build your portfolios, one of the key tenets of a good portfolio is different levers or different sources of outperformance. And diversification can give you that.
There's a big question I want to ask both of you. And Gary, let me start with you. What's more important, investing by sector or investing by country? So, I mean, if you're looking at the tech sector, I mean, if you want to make a decision about going tech, or do you want to make a decision about going US, or do you want to make a decision about going South African retail? So, in other words, isn't the sector actually maybe a more important conversation?
Or I'll take even a step back. I mean, diversification is kind of preached as, it's obviously a good thing. But I mean, you diversify to protect. Sure. You concentrate to create as well. If you know what you're doing and you know something is good and you have a strong thesis, you can get pretty concentrated. That's where the biggest returns come from. You look at, we've been talking Naspers all the way through. So, I mean, if they had gone, oh, well, we're getting a little bit too exposed to Tencent, let's trim and trim and trim, they would have lost enormous value over the history of their company. So, concentrating in a very good company is actually a pretty good thing. Whether it's sector-based or geographic-based, I think it also does come down to your own personal investment preferences, but it also comes down to the person and how the person is investing as well. So if you look at it, it's if you take let's not look at it from potentially a pure investment, it's this sector or that geography. Yeah. You've also got to look at what pool of capital is this? Because as a South African investor, where I live here, your business might be here, your job is here as well. So, and probably for a lot of people, the most important asset that they have is their mind. It's their ability to work and generate capital. It's them that is the most important asset in their portfolio. That's local. Your house is going to be local. There's a lot of things that are already local. And specifically, if you're under 55 and you're constrained by Regulation 28, a lot of your pension money is forced to be local as well. So if you're looking at a discretionary pool of capital, which is money that you've paid tax on, that's sitting in your bank account, it's one of the few pools of capital that you can diversify. And from there, you would look at, what do I have in my pension fund? Have I got 6 properties in South Africa already? Well, maybe I don't want to go and look at the property sector in Europe. Maybe I need something else if I'm trying to diversify. But there's a lot that goes into that question, because maybe you do. Maybe you're just very bullish on property and you say interest rates are going to fall and populations are going to grow and they're not making any more land and I just want all property. I mean, it's an investor preference. But I think you need to look at geography, because that comes with all the jurisdictional risks. But you need to look at sectors as well. And most important, you need to backtest all of this stuff so that you can actually check correlation. You might be investing in 2 sectors that are different, but actually have a historic correlation for whatever reason.
Patrick, I mean, what's more important, the country that you're investing in or the sector that you're investing in?
I think for us, they're all important. Clearly not in equal measure. So we do look at all 3. First, the country or the macros, largely because we want to make sure that, in some areas it's easy to put money in, but the big question is, can I take it out as and when I need to? Right, so all those variables, do matter from a global, from a macro point of view. And then the sectors is where you start to look for ideas, right? So you want to have, sectors that perhaps, you don't have exposure to, or sectors that are coming through as projecting much faster growth, compared to others. And then within those sectors, you want to pick, your winners and try and avoid the losers. So it's almost like a 3-stage approach where you look at the country first and say, is this country, holistically investor friendly? So is my money safe in there? So it won't be nationalized or whatever the case may be. And then secondly, what are the themes that are playing out at a sector level that I need to be exposed to? And then say, where can I get the best exposure for this sectors that are playing out, right? So that becomes obviously your stock picks, which ultimately is where the money goes. So you don't invest in countries, so to speak. You don't invest in sectors, but you actually invest in stocks. And that, and all of those get rolled up then to give you a sense of how you invested when you take a step back and look at your portfolio and say, okay, what's my exposure to this economy? What exposure to the sector, given the stocks that I've picked in terms of where I find value?
It's so interesting. So don't buy shares in Zimbabwe because they might be nationalized, the company, or shares in Intel in the US because they might become nationalized. 7 minutes now to 8 o'clock.
Live extra at Checkers, SA's #1 value for money supermarket, and save on Knox Sparkling Hydration Drink 500 mils. Any 2 for 28 Rand. Domestos Power Foam 450 mils for 46.99. And Ina Parman's product range. Buy any 3 and save 20%. Valid until Sunday at Checkers, Checkers Hyper, or shop on 6060.
In Australia, a 9 a.m. meeting begins at 9 a.m. But in Nigeria, 9 a.m. starts at 10-ish. In France, debate is good, but in China, it's bad. In Mexico, they dress formally, but in Finland, they meet in saunas where they don't dress much at all. Getting it right pays dividends. So invest offshore with a partner who has 26 years experience in global markets, because investing in foreign markets isn't foreign to us.
Coronation. Trust is earned. Coronation is an authorized FSP.
Are you living with diabetes? Tired of painful fingerstick tests? Introducing a new continuous glucose monitoring system from Abbott Laboratories. The Freestyle Libre 2 system sends glucose readings straight to your compatible smartphone. With minute-by-minute glucose readings, optional glucose alarms, and excellent accuracy, the Freestyle Libre system is here to support you in the management of your diabetes. For more information and where to buy your Freestyle Libre 2 sensor, visit www.freestylelibre.za.com. Now available at your local pharmacy.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes is brought to you by ABSA CIB, backing the Ideas Fund by advancing capital to African infrastructure investment managers.
The Money Show.
Investment School.
5 minutes now to 8 the time, considering investment school this evening. Your calls as well on 011 883 0702 and 021 446 0567. Patrick Matidis, Head of Equities at Alawani Capital Partners, and Gary Boyson is Director at Rand Swiss. Patrick, we do need to talk a little bit about currencies, and you started off by talking about the macro. In other words, you're investing in a company, in a country, and the country in which that company is in matters, okay? One of the things you have to get used to if you're going to have investments in other places is you have to know what currencies are going to do. So for many years, if you were going to take your money out of rands, you were probably going to put it into dollars and you'll be very happy with yourself. I don't know how happy you would necessarily be right now, which no one saw coming back in November last year, Patrick.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the currency is, can be a big, sort of a swing in terms of the returns that you ultimately get. So what we then try and do is to hedge the currency out and make sure that, we get the pure returns that hopefully, if our investment thesis is correct, we can harvest. But on the currency itself, especially the rand, yes, conventional wisdom, for the longest of time has suggested that the rand is a one-way bet, meaning that if you just take your money offshore, even if you put it in a, sort of like a cash account offshore somewhere, you'll still do better because the rand will bail you out. And that has actually held true for a while. But of late, there has been some changes. So the rand, has become a bit stronger than perhaps what people would have anticipated. Some of it in our own domestic factors, but also I think the dollar has also been weak, which has also helped. I think the important thing with the rand, though, is especially for us, is it's not so much the level, whether it's going up or down. The big thing for us is the volatility, right? So we have seen, irrespective of whatever time frame, the rand has exhibited a lot of volatility, which has made investing offshore fairly difficult, and hence us adopting a hedging strategy to actually take out that volatility out of the investment case, and then hopefully come back with a much more smoother return profile for our clients. But volatility is the big enemy, not necessarily the level.
Yeah, sure. I mean, and Gary, isn't that the issue? The moment you take the money, I mean, yes, we have volatility in South Africa. Yes, I know. But once you take it offshore, you have a lot more variables to consider.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a great point because, but again, I'm going to bring it back to what are the funds for? If this is your retirement that you're going to be drawing out of on a regular basis, you really can't afford to take the translational risk of that currency. That one day it's at 17.50 to the dollar, the next day it's at 19. 1 month you're going to eat crackers with you're going to eat plain crackers, and other months they're going to be stacked with all delicious things. So yes, it's got to be kind of, I think it makes the most sense for a long-term pool of capital as well that can absorb that translational currency risk. And it does work both ways. I mean, volatility, as Patrick was saying, it's been a one-way bet, but now we've got the Reserve Bank talking about 3% inflation targets. our risk premium potentially comes down a little bit. Suddenly that, aggregate 6% weakening that you see on average is not a given anymore. And I think a lot of people are going to wake up and be quite surprised when they're sitting in non-invested. So as Patrick was saying, just sitting on a dollar deposit and going, wait a minute, I'm getting next to no interest on this, and I'm really not being compensated for the risk. So I think one of the things that we do with clients is just really try and focus on, if this is an offshore portfolio, let's report in that currency.
Gary Boyson, thank you. Director at Rand Swiss. Patrick Matides, Head of Equities at Alawani Capital Partners on Investment School tonight. Running a business, Absa Business Banking gets it. The pressure, the pace, the risk, that's all on you. You need more than banking. You need flexible funding, real-world tools and sector expertise that shows up when it matters. But most of all, you need a banking partner that gets it. So talk business with Absa Business Banking, because they get it. Your story matters. Absa is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
The Money Show, Stephen Grootes, is brought to you by Absa CIB, backing the Ideas Fund by advancing capital to African infrastructure investment managers.
Well, as we talk about investing money offshore, the Dow Jones is down 0.42%, the Nasdaq is down 0.6%, the S&P 500 is down 0.56% at the moment. We, of course, will be back with you for the Friday edition of The Money Show. Tomorrow, good evening, it's 8 o'clock.
This is EWN.
Good evening, I'm Maki Malapo. The Gauteng High Court has overturned the suspension of a ruling to provide cancer patients with radiation treatment after the Health Department stalled its implementation, citing unrealistic timelines and a lack of finances. The Cancer Alliance and Section 27 have been on a long-drawn legal battle on behalf of at least